Hello and welcome to Silverstone in Northamptonshire for the first round of the BSR GT Sprint Cup. The GT Sprint Cup replaces the Carrera Cup from last season and features all three GT cars. We have the BMW Z4, the latest car on the iRacing service. We have the RUF car, and we also have the McLaren MP4 12C. And this is how the format of this new season will go. We have two 25-minute races per meeting, and there's 4 lap solo qualifying, so the drivers don't have to worry about being blocked or such. It's their own times and their own efforts which really matter. They're rolling starts, as you can see here, with the pace car now leading the field round the track. The top 20 will be reversed after the first race, and for this first race of the season, well, the first 2 races of the season, we're on the historical Grand Prix layout. So the difference between this and the normal Silverstone layout are making the course a lot more faster. As normal, they're coming through cops here, but as I go through their warm-up lap, I will now give you the grid. And on pole position is George Wright, the former Super 1 karter. A fantastic time by him, a 1:39.767 puts him on pole position. He's in a BMW Z4. And alongside him on the front row is Chris Keogh, 1:39.891. He's also in a BMW Z4, and you'll find that most of the field, in fact, are in BMW Z4s. On the second row, though, in third position, is the car of Michael Stephen. Alongside him is Alain Tessier. In fifth is Michael Booth. In sixth position, Jamie Rushworth, one of the guys from the BSR Touring Car Championship, which we've become familiar with. He finds himself in sixth position. In seventh is OK Stokenberger. Eighth is Juan Jose Sanchez. Sanchez driving the McLaren. In ninth is John Christophe Goddard. 10th is Matthew Oates. 11th is Adam Chmielewski. 12th, Sylvain Pomerode. 13th is John Nkala Jorugi. 14th is David E. Baker. In 15th place, we have Ruben Velasco. 16th is Jose E. Vergara. In 17th position is William Botha. 18th is the number 21, that's Nicholas Pomerad. 19th is Tian Dams. 20th is Stefan Hug, the BSR touring car regular. He was very, very close to sealing the title, just lost out to Jamie Rushworth, but has to settle for 20th position on this grid. 21st is Carlos Foss. 22nd is Chris Taylor Jr. 23rd, Andy Shield. We have a massive grid, though, of 53 cars, and if I go through a lot of them, I think it's pretty likely that we may miss the start of this race. But George Wright on pole position, it'll be interesting to see what George can do from that position. George, maybe a bit of a dubious reputation on the iRacing service, but this will be a chance for him to prove him wrong. He's proved he's very fast in qualifying so far, but as we said before about the being on the historical track, that is the Abbey corner. Usually when they're on the full Grand Prix layout, they slow down, take the left turn. This one's a long corner, they go down to Bridge, and then also they come down to the Priory and Brooklyn section as per normal. But this race will be very, very interesting. George Wright leading the field, and alongside him on the grid is Chris Keogh. So the car's now just coming round into Brooklands for the formation lap. So George Wright will be getting this race underway very, very shortly. Very intrigued to see how George Wright does. So here we go then, 25 minutes of racing, which will be about 17 or 18 laps, and the pace car goes, and George Wright waits to be told he can go. There we go, there is the green flag, and George Wright it is, going into Cop's corner, but the car of Chris Keogh alongside, they could be going 3 wide there into the first corner, but thinks better of it, but it's going to be George Wright, and then the car Chris Keogh goes a bit wide going into Cops. He's lost a lot of positions there. The RUS gone past a lot of the BMWs, but George Wright, it is in the lead. Further back, I'll see if there's any carnage, but at the moment George Wright pulling out a massive gap as they now go down through Beckett's and Maggots for the first time, and George Wright already starting to pull free on the first lap of this race. They come down onto the hanger straight. Now I'd say George Wright has at least a second and a half. George Wright is gone already. Fantastic start from the youngster. But as we go down into Stowe Corner for the first time, it's still George Wright leading, but there's a great battle behind him, and there's the RUF in second position. That is the car of Michael Booth. So Michael Booth, who started in 5th position, has already found himself up into 2nd place. So Michael Booth, or was that, no, I don't think, yes it is Michael Booth. Michael Booth in 2nd position in the RUF. There's the BMW behind him as well in 3rd place. And that is the car of Michael Stevens. So Michael Stevens in 3rd position. In 4th place is Oki Stokenberger. 5th is Alain Tessier. So Alain Tessier is had a good start. He's in 5th position. But at the end of this first lap, it's going to be George Wright who has the lead. And let's see what his gap is when they come across the line for the first time. So George Wright leads lap number 1. And the gap between himself and the car in 2nd position of Michael Booth is 1.6 seconds. So Michael Booth is 2nd. 3rd place is Michael Stevens. 4th, Oki Stokenberger. 5th, Alain Tessier with Jean-Christophe Godard. 6th, Adam Chalewski is 7th. 8th is Jamie Rushworth. 9th is Juan Jose Sanchez. And there's a car from the back going into the wall there. I saw going into Cop's corner. That is not the way you want to end your race. I think it was one of the McLarens we saw into the wall there. I'll try and find out who it is, but that is not a very good way to finish your race. But George Wright still leads. 2nd place Michael Booth, and then 3rd Michael Stevens, 4th Oki Stokenberger. That's a big train of cars from 2nd onwards. But George Wright did what he had to do. He took the lead, and George from the start he took the lead. There was a bit of behind him trying to get past, but George Wright managed to hold on to the line going into the first corner, and from that point on he's had a bit of an easy ride. But this pack behind him certainly are going to try and catch him up. They maybe need to stop racing each other and not let him get away. But George Wright at the moment, a fantastic drive as he now goes down into the complex for the 2nd time. But the battle for 2nd place, Michael Stevens may try and make a move here on Michael Booth, and Michael Booth goes a little bit wide there going into Priory, but to go to Brooklands, not quite been able to go, but he's going to try and go round the outside maybe Stephen, but Michael Booth has the position covered. Oki Stokenberger close as well in 4th. Tessier is in the 5th position with Jean-Christophe Godard in 6th, and that there's a front pack of about 7 or 8 cars which are starting to pull away from the rest of the field. But George Wright has extended his lead by another 8/10 on the second lap. There is a car in the pit lane I see as well from the earlier shenanigans, but the gap is between the first 9 cars is 5.1 seconds, and there's a couple seconds back to the 10th place car of John and Carla Jagui. So Chris Keogh in 9th position is at the back of this pack going for first 3 to 10th place. But the battle for 3rd, because the Oki Stokenberger maybe try and have a move for Michael Stevens, because Michael Stevens was quite slow there coming out of Chapel Bend, and as I go onto the hangar straight for the 3rd time, Oki Stokenberger on the outside of Michael Stevens' BMW. So this is the RUF versus the BMW. There's another RUF behind as well with Alain Tessier, but Alain Tessier in fact is going to take maybe 4th position there because Stokenberger goes a little bit wide. That's going to have Tessier on the outside, but Tessier's not going to have the ideal allowance to come down the Vale into Club Corner, and he has to pull out that Alain Tessier. So Stokenberger keeps his 3rd position, but behind them is just Christophe Godard, a bit racy as well behind. They're side by side behind as well. That's the car of Adam Chilinsky and Jamie Rushworth, and they're starting to drop Chris Keogh. We said Chris Keogh was at the back of that field, but the top 8 now starting to pull away just that little bit from the 9th place car of Chris Keogh. But 2nd to 9th are really close together. But Chris Keogh, as we say, in 9th position, maybe trying to get them back, but behind them is 3 cars of John, that's Jugi, Sylvain Pomerad and Matthew Oates. They're pretty close together as well. But at the end of this 3rd lap, let's see if George Wright has been able to keep his lead up. As he come now down to start lap 3, he's put the gap up to 3 seconds. So George Wright very steadily pulling away. That last time from George Wright was a 1:40.241. So George Wright lapping not too far, it's about half a second slower than he was in qualifying, and that's with a more fuel load as well. So George Wright motoring on very well in that BMW, and George Wright really showing his class in this first race at the moment. I don't want to give him the curse of the commentator and see him flying into the wall, but as they come down the hangar straight for that 4th time, it is George Wright leading, but the gap between 2nd and 3rd has extended a little bit. Stevens pulled away from Booth, and Booth under pressure now from Stokenberger. As they go into Stoke Corner, Stokenberger trying to get down the inside of Booth, and I think he might actually try, and he's going to try and pull alongside, but can't quite get there. And behind him there's a bit of a steady moment there from Godard. Godard all over the place there, and that was very unlucky there for Chmielewski. He had to slow down a little bit. Now you can see under pressure from Jamie Rushworth. But a bit wide again there from the car of Michael Booth. That brings a car off in the background. That was one of the leading pack. It was the car of, is that Adam Chmielewski we've lost? Yes, unfortunately we have lost Adam Chmielewski for 7th place, just coming there out of club corner. Very unfortunate there for Adam. He did very well in the World Cup finals last year for UK and I, but this time his race hasn't ended so well. But that battle we said about before between 3rd, 4th and 5th is really starting to heat up. It's between the 3 RUFs of Michael Booth, Oki Stockenberger and Alain Tessier, but also Jean-Christophe Goddard, and now with the demise of Adam Chmielewski, Jamie Rushworth. But Stockenberger could have a run here going into Copse Corner, but it stays behind him at the moment. I think he'll maybe try and go through the complex here, just in time to be able to catch a draft of him going onto the hangar straight. But this is allowing Michael Stephen to pull away, and the gap's now 3.097, so George Wright still leads. We've got Michael Stephen in 2nd, Michael Booth 3rd, Oki Stockenberger 4th, Alain Tessier 5th. There's a couple of retirements there. I think Jake Cameron and Mark Koshik have come into problems. They're both disconnected, but Michael Booth, this is the main talking point at the moment at the front. It's Michael Booth versus Oki Stockenberger down the hangar straight, but also Jamie Rushworth maybe had a bit of a poke down the inside there. Jean-Christophe Goddard, let him know he was there. But as they come down the Vale, it'll be interesting to see what happens with these guys. And these RUFs really fighting it out there. And Stockenberger trying really hard to get past Michael Booth. But Michael Booth at the moment defending very well in this 25-minute race. This is the first round of the BSR GT Sprint Cup. And it's providing fantastic action. Although George Wright is not seeing any of that action because he's storming away at the front of the field. The youngster, the British karting champion. So very good stuff from George, but as they come down into the complex again, these cars are really close. There's battle between, this is really between 3rd and 8th, because Chris Keogh, we said before, he dropped back, but now Chris Keogh right on the back of these, and then there's that 3-car battle still raging on behind between John and Carlo Dewey, Sylvain Pomerad and Matthew Oates. But at the moment it looks like Michael Booth, and there's a car off there. It's Jean-Christophe Goddard. So Jean-Christophe Goddard is gone, he's gone off, he's gone across the pit lane. Now did he actually get back out is the question. He has managed to get back on track, Jean-Christophe Goddard, but it's going to drop him down to 11th place. But behind him there's some battles going as well. You've got the Nicholas Pomerad, William Botha and Juan Jose Sanchez going into Copse. And Sanchez there, I think, has got past the car of William Botha, so the McLaren going past the BMW going into Copse Corner. So they are going down through the complex, down through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, but George Wright extends his lead by another 3/10. So George Wright pulling away with just about on a 1/3 distance. Time was 8 minutes 24 seconds there when George Wright came across the line. So George Wright has done very well for this first part of the race. But that's the battle for 3rd place. Still, they're quite close, these RUFs, and Jamie Rushworth wants a bit of the action as well. He gained up to 6th position following the incident there for Jean-Christophe Goddard. It'll be interesting to see where Goddard is able to finish, but for the second race it's quite interesting to note the top 20 will be reversed, and currently in 20th position is Chris Atherton. So the race is to finish now. Chris Atherton would be on pole position, but also driver of note is Stefan Hoog. Stefan Hoog in 17th position there, so Stefan Hoog in a battle there as well. So the car in front of him is Jose E. Vergara. He's got Carlos Foss there as well, but Hoog under a lot of pressure from the McLaren of Andy Schill. So Andy Schill putting Stefan Hoog under a lot of pressure as they go down through left bit of a little bit of a tap there maybe to the back of Hoog, and that's going to allow the chance for Andy Schill to pull alongside Stefan Hoog, and then Andy Schill will have the advantage going to Copse. He can have the inside line, but Stefan Hoog, as we know, is a fighter. He's going to try and fight it hard. Stefan Hoog almost door banging there as they go into Copse. He wants to try and pull alongside, but Hoog very strong there on the outside, but he's got to be careful because the car of Jose E. Vergara will be trying to capitalise on anything that goes wrong between the two in front. But at the moment it is the car of Carlos Foss who has kept the position, so the McLaren driver has just about kept the position there, but Stefan Hoog down into 16th. Stokenberger now has the inside as go into club corner, but the chance there for Booth has just about seen the two of them come through the corner together there near enough, but he might have to try and have a run as they exit club corner, going down towards Abbey, the long fast corner, and in fact Stokenberger on the outside, but you've got to remember here that Booth has got the inside line. It's going to take a brave bit to go round the outside, but he's going to go round the outside and have the inside for the down into Priory. And behind them as well, Chris Keogh trying to make a move here on Jamie Rushworth. This is two, you don't know where to look. There's two good battles going on here, but I think Stokenberger is going to try and go round the outside. At the moment, it's working very well, but he's going to have the advantage. Is Michael Booth going down towards the start-finish line? They're going to be neck and neck down to the start-finish line. Jamie Rushworth has just about kept the place to Keogh, but Stokenberger, as they come across the line, is in front, but Michael Booth has the inside line and Alan Tessier behind. We're looking to take advantage of any contact between the two, but very good driving there from Stokenberger and Booth side by side, and they've all got through this battle between the five of them. Really good racing, but this battling has dropped them nearly 4 seconds back of Michael Stephen in second place, and nearly 7.4 behind George Wright. George Wright at the moment and Michael Stephen have gapped the rest of the field, because the rest of the field are in a fierce battle for this final podium position, and Michael Booth currently leads Stokenberger and Alan Tessier, but the three of them are starting to pull a gap out between Jamie Rushworth and the car there of Chris Keogh. But coming down into Stoke corner, bit of a bubble there from Booth, and Tessier will go downside to Stokenberger, try and gain a position. He's gained one position, Tessier, or Tessier got to hang it around the outside to try and get past Booth. Very, very close there between the two of them, but good driving there from Alan Tessier to take 4th position. So Tessier into 4th, and from being attacking for 3rd position, Stokenberger's have to watch out now, because he's got the car of Jamie Rushworth. That BMW will be looming large in the mirrors of the IRF. But speaking of looming large, Tessier right in the Michael Booth's mirrors, and Tessier is going to try and have a go down the inside, going into Priory here. Tessier on the inside, the braking zone, and Tessier is going to make it stick, I think. But the acceleration on the outside for Michael Booth, he's not going to let this position go very easily. Going into Woodcote for the going into left field, and Woodcote, Tessier not quite been able to get past Michael Booth, but that momentum from Stokenberger coming out of Woodcote could see him on the inside of Tessier for Cops. So Tessier's, and also behind them, Keogh alongside Jamie Rushworth. Chris Keogh has the optimum line going into Cops corner. Rushworth will try and hang it round the outside, but this has allowed the cars behind to catch up as well. There's one wide there, as one of the BMWs goes wide. Behind them, you've got Pomerad, Oates, and Jean-Christophe Goddard as well. But Goddard's a bit further back of the pack fighting, but the pack is expanded now with all this fighting, and the gap at the front is closing up as well. Michael Stephen has taken a little bit out of George Wright. The gap down now to below 3 seconds, as we've done 13 minutes of this race. 13 minutes and 25 seconds, meaning we are now just about at the halfway point of this race. We're very, very excited. Apologies that we've not been able to focus much on what's going on further down, but this battle at the front is really fierce stuff, and it could go either way really between at least 6 or 7 drivers for this final podium position. Goes like a bit further down the field, looking at a battle between Willem Botha in the 302 and Jose Vergara. So it's about for 15th and 16th place, and Vergara has got right behind William Botha, who couldn't be much closer, like tapping the rear of him. And they go now through into, this is now Abbey corner, going down towards Bridge, and the car of Vergara is going to try and maybe go down the inside, but Botha slams it all shut there on the number 77 car. And this is the battle, as I said before, for 15th position. But up front, it really is George Wright's race at the moment, but I think Michael Stephen trying to do something about it, but they get now up to 3 seconds. So Michael Stephen has pulled out, well, George Wright even has pulled out another 10th there. But in the battle for 3rd, we've got Booth 4th, Tessier 5th, Stokenberger 6th, and Jean-Christophe Goddard. We said earlier about his problems, but Jean-Christophe Goddard now up into 10th position there. So number 35 into 10th position. One of the other drivers who's in regular BSR action, then looking at number 29, Nick McLaren in 25th position, and in front of him he's got Chris Atherton in 24th. And Chris Atherton at one stage I said was in the 20th position in order to get the second race pole position, but that is actually Linus Broström. So Linus Broström in the number 71 car, currently in that 20th position, which is all important for the reverse grid second race. The top 20 will be reversed. Brosham has a little bit of a gap back. In fact, he doesn't have much of a gap at all, because William Barnard is right behind him, and there's a car there, I think that slowed down, was there, going into Stowe. But brushed him on the inside in the number 71 car. This George Wright now coming to start his 11th lap. So George Wright has completed 16 minutes and 45 seconds in this race, and so far it doesn't look like he's put a foot wrong, and the gap now between him and Michael Stevens still at 3 seconds. So George Wright keeping a consistent gap, and you've got to say at the moment George Wright looking very good to take the first victory in the BSR GT Sprint Cup. And now if I told you at the start of the race, well, before the race meeting started, that George Wright would take the first victory, I think quite a few people would have raised some eyebrows, but George showing real maturity in this drive, so all credit to George at the moment. He's not put a foot wrong, but this battle behind, it looks like it's heating up for the final podium position again. But they are coming up against some traffic there. I see there's a BMW Z4, and that is Willem Pienaar. So Willem Pienaar has got the podium guys coming behind him, and Chris Keogh is up to 6th position. We saw him make that move on Jamie Rushworth, but depending on how quick Booth can get past Pienaar here, he might be able to pull out a bit further to Alan Tessier. But very, very close there on. I think he's been a bit bolt there. Oh, this is not good news for Michael Booth. He's been bolt behind Willem Pienaar, and Pienaar's hit him! Oh my word, what is going on there? That is not the sort of thing you want to see. I don't think he knew he was there, but Willem Pienaar and Michael Booth to come together, and we were talking about that fast left-hander at Abbey, and it's caused a victim there. I cannot believe that. Michael Booth would be absolutely devastated. Willem Pienaar was a lapped car, and he's gone straight into the side of him, and I think he might need to take a bit of a time out. But Oki Stokenberg, I saw there, going into Woodcote, was trying to make a move with Alan Tessier. But Tessier has the inside line cops, and we said before he's a bit quiet, but now it's exploded into action. And Chris Keogh in that BMW also looking rather menacing, but Tessier has taken 3rd position from Stokenberger. 4th position is Stokenberger, 5th for Keogh, 6th is Jamie Rushworth, and 7th at the back of this little pack is Sylvain Pomerad. But that was desperately unlucky there for Michael Booth. I think he will be pretty mad at the lapped car there. It blocked him a little bit coming out of the club, and then as he came into Abbey, straight into the side of his door. But Alan Tessier now will try and pull away. We saw Stokenberger and Booth try and do it earlier, neither of them could, so it'd be interesting to see if Tessier is able to make a bit of a break. But there's 8 seconds nearly between them and the second place car, Michael Stevens, so the battle is on for this last podium position. The two BMW Z4s are fighting pretty fiercely. That's the cars of Chris Keogh and Jamie Rushworth, the Movie Go Racing driver, the BSR Touring Car Champion from Season 4. So Jamie Rushworth, already a champion in one discipline, and we try and see if he can get a second championship in the GT Sprint Cup. Speaking of championship, the points, I haven't told you about the point system for this championship. First place, we get 50 points. Second place gets 40. Third gets 35. Fourth, we get 30 points. Fifth, 28. Sixth gets 26. 7th gets 24th, 8th gets 23. That goes right down to 30th position. And there's a little bit of contact there between Rushworth and Keogh. Rushworth found his way past. That was going into Brooklands. Jamie Rushworth and Chris Keogh coming into a little bit of contact, unfortunately, there. But Keogh has dropped back, and then car now on the back of Jamie Rushworth. It's Sylvain Pomerad in number 38, RUF. So another intermark battle. It's the BMW versus the RUF, and behind Chris Keogh under a little bit of pressure as well from John Uncola Jugui, and we got the recovering Jean-Christophe Godard. We saw him earlier going across the pit lane entry line on the grass where he went off, but now back into 9th position. We were talking before about the driver in 20th position, and the driver in 20th is currently Cyril Thomas in the 888 car, but not far behind him is Mark A. Wilmington. So Mark Wilmington will be trying to get into that top 20, but the battle really for 3rd place is now between Tessier and Stokenberger. Jamie Rushworth is falling a little bit behind with Silva and Pomerad, but as we see, if the two in front start fighting out, and there's no doubt they probably will start fighting out, you'll bring these cars together. But that big pack is just now starting to divide into little subsection battles as such, you could say. But we have less than 5 minutes to go in this race, and the drop between George Wright and Michael Stephen, it's been pretty stable, though it is now down to 2.8 seconds. So Michael Stephen is pulling in George Wright ever so slightly at the moment, but George Wright is still pretty comfortable, I'd say, in that 22 machine in the BMW Z4. And it's interesting to see that all three cars have been represented in this race. With the BMW Z4, we've got the RUF, and we've also got the McLaren as well. There are not too many of the McLarens in the race at the moment, but at the moment there are. It seems to be that the Porsche, well, the RUF and the BMW are the cars to have, and the gap again gone down by another 0.2 of a second. So although we're down to about 3 minutes left in this race, George Wright could maybe feel a few anxious moments coming if Michael Stephen continues to take that much out of his lead. Although a couple of tenths a lap isn't really going to hurt George Wright, it might make him be a little bit more on edge. But as you said about the battle for third, and the car of Stuckenberger right behind Alain Tessier as they go down now through Beckett's and now into Maggots before they put the throttle on at the edge of Maggots to go down into Chapel and the Hangar Straight. But Jamie Rusheff's got a fantastic run, it looks like, in that movie go BMW. So Jamie Rusheff in fifth, a bit of contact we saw with Chris Keogh a lap or so ago, but Jamie Rusheff's trying to get on the back of Tessier and Stokenberger for that final podium position. But also something which is worth noting, which we may see for that incident, is we have for this season, we have the drivers review panel where any dubious incidents which are protested, a representative from each team will have a look through the footage, and there will be a vote on who's if there's any fault or if it's a racing incident. So that's something which is new and unprecedented in this championship, is that we have live stewarding as such from the drivers themselves. One representative from each team will have a look at incidents, which will, in a way, is quite good for this championship, because it means that the stewarding and that is going to be from all different people. It's not just one person making a decision. But speaking of making a decision, Tessier slides very wide there, coming out of Brooklyn, and that's allowed Stokenberger to go right around the outside there enough there. He's on the outside line as they now come down towards the start-finish line for a start of lap 15. Jamie Rusheff looks very interested in this as he comes down to the outside behind Stokenberger, and Stokenberger is going to try and make it run the outside of Cox, I think, on Tessier, and he's got the momentum of Stokenberger and have the inside line as well for Maggot. So that's a good move there from Stokenberger, and that all came from Tessier's little slip-up coming out of Brooklands. It's going to cost him that final podium position. Jamie Rushworth as well getting stuck in there on Alain Tessier, really showing some momentum there. But also behind the car of Pomerad is Chris Keogh. We saw what happened between Chris Keogh and Jamie Rushworth earlier, so in the eyes of Chris Keogh, Rushworth may well have a little X on the back of that car, because he'll be maybe a little bit of a, not retribution we say, but he won't try and get past him. But Jamie Rushworth under pressure from Silva and Pomerad. But this will be the final lap of the race, I believe, for George Wright. The gap up to 2.7 seconds, and it looks like the former Super 1 karter will take the first victory of the Super GT season. Not Super GT, Sprint GT I meant, wrong championship. But as we see George right now, he's coming into Priory for the final time. He's got the left-hander at Brooklyn, slows it down nicely, just gets the apex on the curb. Great driving this from George Wright, and George Wright, a very mature drive from the youngster. He's done extremely well. He made a fantastic start, which saw him pull out a massive lead, but George Wright has really controlled this race. He comes right now to take the checkered flag, and it's going to be George Wright, the privateer, to take victory. Fantastic for him. In second place is Michael Stevens. Michael Stevens in second. What's happening in battle for third then? It is going to be Stokenberger in third. Tessier is in fourth position. Rushworth will take fifth. It'll be Pomerad in sixth. Keogh is in seventh position. John Ancala Jungui is eighth. Ninth is going to be Nicholas Pomerad. 10th is Juan Sanchez. I think we lost Jean-Christophe Goddard again on that last lap. So unfortunately, Jean-Christophe Goddard put himself into a good position after the earlier mistake. But unfortunately, it looks like we lost him at the end. And that's given 20th place and pole position for the second race to Chris Taylor Jr. And there's some massive fights further down the field I can see coming to the start-finish line. So although we didn't cover really much, I don't think, of the bottom end of the grid, there has actually been some fantastic racing all around. But the win goes to George Wright in 25 minutes and 6 seconds. He was 2.6 and 658 in front of Michael Stevens. Third place, Oki Stokenberger. Fourth is Alan Tessier. Fifth is Jamie Rush with a bit of contact with Chris Keogh. That'd be interesting to see if anything comes to that. But for now, he takes fifth position. Sixth will be Sylvain Pomeroy. Seventh is Chris Keogh. Eighth, John Ankara Dewey. Ninth is Nicholas Pomerad. 10th is Juan Jose Santos, that's your top 10. 11th, William Burford. 12th is Matthew Oakes. 13th, Andy Schill. 14th, Willem Barnard. 15th is Linus Brostrom. 16th will be Tian Dams. 17th, Cyril Thompson. Mark Wilmington takes 18th place, so top 20 for him. I'll put him on third position. And this is the front row for the second race. We've got Chris Taylor, who finished 20th to be on pole, and Nick McLaren will be alongside him in that number 29 car. That is your front row. Just missing out was Tony McCallum by 7 seconds on the pole position. 22nd was Chris Atherton. 23rd, Benjamin Gregory. 24th was BSR's very own Matthew Dalton. 25th, David Baker. 26th, Jose Almeida. 27th, Robert Tings. 28th was Cam Bracey. 29th, Daniel Osling. 30th was Willie Watt. 31st, Ellis Stevens. 32nd was Vittorio Saltamacchia. 33rd, Aaron Gearing. 34th was Steve Richardson. And the final car on the lead lap was the 72 of Stephen Hefford in 35th position. So that was a very interesting first race. And after that, the second race will surely be far more fireworks again at Silverstone on the historic Grand Prix layout.